Dad leaned across the signing table and said, "Either sign the house over now or walk out alone." Guests went silent. The notary froze. Then she looked at him and said, "Sir, I need to verify something first. My name is Emily Carter, and I'm 36 years old. I work as a property records coordinator for the county clerk's office, which means I spend my days filing deeds, tracking ownership changes, and making sure legal documents are accurate and complete. It's steady work, not powerful or flashy, but it's taught me to notice things most people miss. Growing up, I spent years trying to earn my father's approval, but it never seemed to matter what I did. He always favored my younger brother, the one he talked about with pride at family dinners, the one whose achievements got framed and hung on walls. I was just the daughter who paid bills quietly and kept things running without asking for credit. I bought a small house 5 years ago, and while my dad contributed to the down payment, I'd been covering the mortgage, taxes, and repairs on my own ever since. But in his mind, I was never the real owner. I was just holding on to something he believed belonged to the family, meaning him. I wasn't rich or influential, and I didn't have connections that could intimidate anyone. But I understood paperwork, timelines, and records better than anyone in that room. And that was about to matter more than anyone expected. If you've ever felt overlooked or pressured by family to give up something you earned, this story is for you. Subscribe if you've been controlled or underestimated by people who should have supported you. Drop a comment if you were ever forced into an unfair family choice and had to fight your way out. And click like or hype, because what happened next showed me exactly who I could trust. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My wedding was small, held at a garden venue with about 40 guests, string lights hanging from the trees, and the faint smell of jasmine in the air. Everything had gone smoothly until an hour before the ceremony, when my dad pulled me aside near the signing table set up for the marriage license. He had a folder in his hand and a notary standing beside him, a woman I'd never met before. "We need to handle something quick," he said. "Just a family formality." I asked what he was talking about. He opened the folder and pulled out a document transferring ownership of my house into his name. "It's cleaner this way," he said. "Keeps everything in the family." I stared at him. "I'm not signing that." His jaw tightened. "Emily, don't make this difficult." "Not today." My fiancé, standing a few feet away adjusting his tie, looked over confused. Guests were starting to notice the tension. My dad leaned closer and said it louder, so people could hear. "Either sign the house over now or walk out alone. I'm not watching you marry someone when you can't even respect your own family." The notary stood frozen, pen in hand, looking between us. My aunt whispered something to my uncle. My brother crossed his arms and shook his head like I was the one causing a scene. Then the notary spoke up. "Sir, I need to verify something first." My dad turned to her, irritated. "It's all there. Just notarize it." She didn't move. "I need to see your identification and confirm the property records match." After the wedding, which went ahead without the signing, my family didn't congratulate me. They left early, and within days, a false version of events started spreading. My dad told relatives I'd tried to embarrass him in front of everyone, that I was ungrateful and disrespectful. My mom called and said I needed to apologize and fix things quietly before it got worse. I was excluded from a family dinner the following weekend. My brother sent me a text calling me selfish and saying I'd always put myself first. He said I was tearing the family apart over a piece of paper. I felt isolated in a way I hadn't felt since childhood, like I was back to being the daughter who didn't matter, the one whose feelings could be dismissed without consequence. But I didn't back down. I started pulling records, old documents I'd kept from the original purchase, bank statements showing every mortgage payment I'd made, receipts for repairs and upgrades. I organized everything chronologically and backed it up in 3 places. The emotional strain was real. I cried more than once sitting at my kitchen table with papers spread out in front of me. But something was shifting inside me. I wasn't going to let them rewrite the truth. What they didn't know was I'd already seen this pattern before. Not with my own house, but with properties my dad had been involved in over the years. Small irregularities. Signatures that didn't quite match across documents. Filings that used outdated identification or addresses that no longer existed. I'd noticed them when I first started working at the county office, but I'd never said anything because I didn't want to believe my own father would cut corners on legal documents. Now, those inconsistencies mattered. I had access to archived property filings, and I started pulling records tied to my dad's name. What I found wasn't criminal, but it was sloppy. Transfers that had been rushed. Notarizations that didn't match current regulations. Paperwork that wouldn't hold up under close scrutiny. The house he wanted me to sign over? The deed had problems too. Problems I'd noticed years ago but never challenged because I trusted him. I didn't anymore. The lawyer who reached out to me was Mr. Brennan, the same man who'd handled property transfers for our family when I was younger. He'd retired from active practice but still kept an ear to the ground. He called me 3 days after the wedding and said, "I heard what happened. And I think you should know something." He told me he'd reviewed the original paperwork for my house purchase, and there were irregular filings tied to my dad's contribution. Specifically, the identification my dad had used during the initial signing didn't match current records. It was expired, outdated, and technically invalid for legal property transfers. If your father tries to claim ownership, Mr. Brennan said, he won't be able to prove his stake without updated verification. And that verification will show discrepancies he can't explain. He offered to help me if things escalated. Meanwhile, my family grew more confident. My dad told people I'd backed down, that I was too scared to fight him. My brother posted something vague on social media about family loyalty. They thought I'd disappeared. But I was preparing. The meeting took place in a county records office conference room, plain walls, and fluorescent lighting that hummed faintly overhead. My dad had requested it through his own lawyer, confident he could pressure me into signing in a more formal setting. He showed up in a suit, my brother beside him, both of them acting like this was a done deal. The notary from the wedding was there too, along with Mr. Brennan. My dad sat down and slid the same document across the table. "Let's finish this," he said. I didn't touch it. Mr. Brennan spoke first. "Before we proceed, I'd like to request identification verification for all parties claiming ownership interest." My dad pulled out his driver's license and set it on the table. Mr. Brennan picked it up, studied it, then pulled out a file. This ID was issued 8 years ago. According to county records, the identification used during the original property transaction 6 years ago doesn't match this one. In fact, the signature on the original deed doesn't match the signature on this current ID either. The room went quiet. My dad's face went red. "That's ridiculous." "It's documented," Mr. Brennan said calmly. He placed 2 documents side by side. One from the original purchase. One from a recent filing my dad had submitted trying to claim partial ownership. The signatures were different. Not slightly. Clearly different. The notary leaned forward and examined them. "Sir, I can't notarize any transfer without resolving this discrepancy." My dad stood up. "This is a setup." "No," I said. My voice was steady. "This is what happens when you try to take something that was never yours." Mr. Brennan continued. "Miss Carter has made every mortgage payment. She holds the current deed. And any claim you're making is based on documentation that won't hold up in probate or court." My dad's lawyer looked uncomfortable. He whispered something to my dad, who ignored him. But the power in that room had already shifted. There was nothing left to argue. I walked out of that office with my ownership confirmed and my name clear. My dad didn't speak to me on the way out. My brother followed him in silence. Over the next few weeks, they avoided me entirely. No calls. No texts. No attempts to explain or apologize. I didn't chase them down. I focused on my marriage, my home, and the life I'd built without their permission. I reflected often on the fact that I'd spent so many years trying to earn approval from people who were never going to give it freely. And I realized I didn't need it anymore. Choosing boundaries over approval wasn't easy, but it was the only choice that let me breathe. I knew my rights. I stood firm. And I walked away whole. If you've ever been cornered by family and forced to make a choice that wasn't fair, share your story in the comments. Subscribe for more stories about standing up under pressure and refusing to be controlled. Click hype to help this story reach others who need it. Thank you for listening and supporting stories like this one. Subscribe, share your journey, and know that every hype click helps empower someone else. Your voice matters. Your strength matters. And you're not alone.